I want you to picture something. A meeting room, glass walls, 12 people, Monday morning. The AC is set to 19 degrees but nobody is comfortable. The project is 3 weeks behind. Everyone knows it. The client has called twice. The data doesn't add up, the strategy never made sense, and the person responsible for all of it is running the meeting. He clicks to the next slide. He says, "So overall we are tracking well." And here's the moment that should terrify you. Nobody disagrees. Not one person. 12 adults, IIT, IIM, years of experience, sit there and nod. One person says, "Great progress." Another types +1 in the chat. Meanwhile, on every minimized screen in that room, the WhatsApp group is on fire. भाई ये क्या दिखा रहे हैं? क्लाइंट ने सुबह फिर कॉल किया. डेटा मैच नहीं हो रहा. The project is burning, the WhatsApp knows, and every single person in that meeting just agreed that the temperature is fine. This is not incompetence. This is not ignorance. This is something far older, far deeper, and far more dangerous. It's called performance theater. And after tonight, you will see it everywhere. Corporate joker. In episode 1, we identified the predator, the baboon boss who uses primate posturing to dominate. In episode 2, we named the wound, the slow bleed, the cumulative damage of small acts that your brain processes as survival threats. Tonight, we expose the system that makes all of it possible. Because the predator can't operate alone. The slow bleed can't continue unchecked. Something has to keep the machine running. That something is your silence. Robert Sutton's research in the No Asshole Rule documents what happens inside organizations ruled by fear. And the findings are not what you'd expect. Consider a study by Amy Edmondson at Harvard. She set out to investigate drug treatment errors across 8 nursing units. Simple hypothesis: better leadership and better team relationships should lead to fewer mistakes. The results came back and they made no sense. The units with the best leaders reported making up to 10 times more errors than the units with the worst leaders. 10 times! Edmondson was baffled until she looked deeper and realized the truth. The good units weren't making more mistakes, they were admitting them. Nurses in those units felt safe enough to tell the truth. They said mistakes are natural and normal to document. The units with the worst leaders, those nurses barely reported anything. Not because the wards were perfect, because the nurses were terrified. They said the environment is unforgiving, heads will roll. So they stopped reporting, they hid the errors, they smiled in meetings and said everything was fine. And people could have died because of it. In a hospital where the stakes are literal life and death, trained professionals chose to maintain the performance of competence rather than admit reality, because the social cost of truth was higher than the medical cost of silence. Now think about your office. Think about the server that went down at 2 a.m. The good team does a blameless root cause analysis. The fear-based team, they secretly patch it at 3 a.m., blame network latency in the morning stand-up. Same incident, 2 organizations. One tells the truth, the other performs it. Sutton found this pattern everywhere. In American Airlines in the 1990s, CEO Robert Crandall ran the company through fear. One field manager described the culture in 3 words: management by intimidation. When planes were delayed, employees didn't fix the problem. They pointed fingers. They devoted their energy to avoiding blame, not improving service. You recognize this. You've been in meetings where the first 10 minutes aren't about solving the problem. They're about establishing who the problem belongs to. The real agenda is making sure the crisis doesn't land on your KRAs. Because in Indian corporates, we don't solve problems. We manage escalations until the problem becomes someone else's handover. Sutton documents a prestigious securities firm that had 3 values plastered on every wall: respect for the individual, teamwork, integrity. And yet, young analysts at this firm were treated with systematic disrespect, forced into meaningless work, subjected to mistrust and abuse. Sutton's verdict was devastating. Words seemed to have replaced action. Respect on the wall, abuse in the room. Teamwork on the website, isolation in practice. Integrity in the mission statement, silence in the meeting. Sound familiar? Walk into any Indian corporate office. The lobby will have the values etched in glass. Then walk into the 4th floor conference room where a VP is explaining why last quarter's numbers were actually a strategic repositioning. The project isn't successful, it just hasn't failed loudly enough to reach the CEO. This is performance theater at the organizational level, where the appearance of values replaces the practice of them, and everyone participates because the alternative is becoming the next target.
But here's the question that should keep you up tonight. Why are we so good at this? Why can 12 intelligent people sit in a room, watch a project burn, and genuinely convince themselves it's fine? For that, we need to go back to the science of the mind itself. In the 1970s, a young professor at Harvard named Robert Trivers proposed an idea so disturbing that psychology largely ignored it for 40 years. He said, "We don't just lie to others, we lie to ourselves first, so that the lie to others is more convincing." William von Hippel, in The Social Leap, picks up this thread and proves it. Participants were shown videos of a person named Mark and told they'd be paid a bonus if they could write a persuasive argument. People didn't watch all the evidence and then cherry-pick. They stopped watching early, as soon as they found enough material. They stopped looking if early videos supported their position. They kept watching if they didn't, hunting for evidence that fit. After writing their essay, participants were asked their private, honest opinion of Mark, and their opinions matched whatever position they'd been paid to argue. They had convinced themselves. Through biased information gathering, they had genuinely come to believe the conclusion they were financially motivated to reach. And the most persuasive people in the study were the ones who had deceived themselves most completely. Self-deception didn't just distort their own beliefs, it made them better at persuading others. Trivers was right. We lie to ourselves first, so the lie we tell the world is seamless. The brain doesn't like lying, so it upgrades the lie into a belief. Now apply this to your office. Think about a middle manager you know. The delivery is behind, the team is exhausted, Saturday work is the only option. He knows this will ruin their weekend. Somewhere inside his head, for a fraction of a second, he thinks, this will destroy their plans. But then the machinery kicks in. But this is important for the project. It's actually a critical learning opportunity. And by the time he opens his mouth in the team huddle and says, guys, this is actually a great learning opportunity for all of us, he believes it. That is not acting, that is self-deception functioning exactly as evolution designed it. He didn't lie to his team, he lied to himself first, and then the performance became flawless, because the performer was his own first audience. And von Hippel explains why evolution built us this way. The social brain hypothesis. Our enormous brains evolved not to solve technical problems, but to navigate social ones. In the social world, value is not discovered, it is created by consensus. If everyone agrees the daily stand-up is agile, then agile is what it is, even if it's just micromanagement with a sticky note aesthetic. If everyone agrees the company culture is fast-paced and high growth, that becomes the reality, even if it's just burnout with better branding. Reality in a social group is whatever the group agrees it is. Your brain, built over millions of years to survive by maintaining your place in the group, will prioritize social reality over objective reality every single time. Your brain was not designed to see the truth. Your brain was designed to see whatever keeps you in the group. Von Hippel documents how humans are compulsive over-imitators. We copy what others do even when we don't understand why. But it also means that when everyone around you nods in a meeting, your brain's default is to nod too. Not because you agree, because your ancestors who didn't imitate the group ended up alone on the savannah. And alone on the savannah, as we learned in episode 2, was a death sentence. Now think about the Indian meeting room. The boss finishes his slide and asks, "Are we aligned?" 2 people say, "Yes." 8 stay silent. Someone types +1 in the chat. Decision made. Because silence in an Indian meeting is not neutrality, silence is approval. Your boss has deceived himself into believing the narrative. Your colleagues are over-imitating to maintain consensus. And you think about unmuting. You think about saying, actually, the numbers don't support this. And then you remember your last salary credit. Your brain does the calculation in microseconds. Challenging the group's version of reality is more dangerous than living inside the lie. And the meeting ends, and everyone walks out, and the project is still on fire. But the performance was flawless.
I didn't just witness performance theater. I was in the cast. In the bank where I worked, there were meetings where every person in the room knew the numbers were being presented in a way that obscured the truth. Not fabricated, obscured, framed, massaged. The data was technically correct, but the story it told was designed to protect the people presenting it. And I sat there. I nodded. I didn't speak up. Not once. It wasn't just cowardice. It was something more sophisticated than that. Everyone in that room knew it was a lie, but everyone also had an EMI that needed that lie to be true. A home loan, a car payment, parents' medical insurance, a wedding being planned, the next appraisal cycle 3 months away. That's not just fear. That's financial captivity dressed in a lanyard and a corporate ID. I had already seen what happens to people who break the theater. There was a colleague, sharp, talented, genuinely cared about the work. He raised a concern in the meeting, politely, factually, about a decision that was clearly going wrong. He wasn't punished immediately. That would be too obvious. In Indian corporates, control doesn't shout. It politely says, please do the needful. Phase 1, the social death. His name dropped off the next calendar invite. The week after, his email started getting one-word replies. Noted. The corridor conversations stopped pausing for him. They just continued, as if he wasn't there. His teen status showed available. Nobody pinged. His chair was still in the meeting room. He was not. Phase 2, the formal death. HR scheduled a 15-minute sync, the kind with no agenda in the invite. The kind where you know the agenda before you sit down. The performance improvement plan. In any Indian corporate, everyone knows what PIP really means. It's not improvement. It's paperwork for an exit. First, they made him invisible. Then they made it official. He didn't get fired for telling the truth. He got made invisible for telling the truth. Which, as we learned in episode 1, is item number 12 on Sutton's Dirty Dozen, treating people as if they don't exist. My brain watched that happen, and my brain did the math. The cost of truth? Social death, then formal death. The cost of silence? The project fails, but I keep my rank. I keep my EMI. I keep my seat at the table. In the evolutionary calculus that runs beneath every meeting you've ever attended, silence wins. Every time. That is performance theater. And I was a willing actor because the alternative was becoming an audience of one. Performance theater. Performance theater, noun. The collective, unconscious agreement within an organization to maintain a false version of reality, where all participants, from the most senior leader to the most junior employee, conspire to present, defend, and even believe a narrative that contradicts observable facts, because the evolutionary cost of breaking social consensus is perceived as greater than the cost of living inside the lie. Sutton showed us what fear does to organizations. Von Hippel showed us why this happens. Put them together, and you get performance theater. An entire office operating inside a shared hallucination, where everyone privately knows the truth and publicly performs its opposite. Where silence is mistaken for agreement, agreement is mistaken for competence, and competence is mistaken for progress. The meeting is not for truth. The meeting is to decide which lie everyone will agree on. Performance theater doesn't just damage organizations, it damages you.
Because every time you sit in that meeting and nod when you know you should speak, something small inside you does the calculation. And the cost isn't just silence, it's the slow erosion of your own ability to trust your perceptions. After enough meetings where reality is overwritten by consensus, you start to doubt yourself. Maybe the project is fine. Maybe I am overthinking it. The truth isn't that everything is fine. The truth is that everyone has convinced themselves that it is. That's the slow bleed from episode 2 working in a new dimension. It's not just your confidence being eroded, it's your relationship with reality itself. You're not rewarded for honesty, you're rated for obedience. Do you want to know the most terrifying thing about performance theater? It doesn't need a villain. Primate posturing needs a baboon boss. The slow bleed needs a bully. Performance theater needs no one. It runs on autopilot. It is a machine built from fear, maintained by self-deception, and powered by millions of years of evolution. Telling every person in that room, do not be the one who breaks consensus. It is the perfect system, self-organizing, self-sustaining, self-deceiving. And it will continue, in your office, in your meetings, in your silence, until someone decides that the truth matters more than the tribe. The question is whether that someone is going to be you. This is Corporate Joker, and the show's over when you stop performing. Next time on Corporate Joker. You've seen the predator, you've felt the wound, you've watched the performance. But there's one piece of the puzzle we haven't examined yet. The predator doesn't just destroy people, it creates more predators. Sutton found that prolonged bullying transforms victims into bullies themselves. Von Hippel found that power literally rewires the brain how it processes empathy. Episode 4, Asshole Contagion, How the Machine Reproduces Itself.